creator of this deck had intended for the deck to be an oval one, but it didn't quite work out during production. So anyway, so my current tarot crush is The Little Monsters Tarot by Olivia, Ephraim, and Peony Coin Archer. Peony, I think, is known for her other deck, Efflorescence, I think it's called. That deck came on and on my wish list and I never pulled the trigger, but when I saw this, I knew almost immediately that this is a deck for me. The reason why I have a tarot crush at the moment on this deck is because the deck, both visually and verbally, visually it makes me feel, and the words in the book written by Olivia, Ephraim, just enhances that feeling that I have looking at these images. I can't describe the feeling, and that's a good thing, I think. I think some of us have spoken about being too much in our head and not enough groundedness. At least that is true for me. I've also mentioned how an energy healer, whose session was gifted to me by a dear friend whom I sadly am no longer in touch with, when I was in New York, told me that I am top heavy and I need to be more grounded, and she advised me to do a particular kind of yoga, which name I've forgotten. What was it? It's not Ashtanga, it's the other one. Vinyasa? Oh, I can't remember. The other suggestion she had was walk around barefooted, massage, and a bath. And so only recently I understand what she was trying to say. And so I am aware of that. But in my other video also discussing the Ace of Swords for my year ahead 2016 contemplation, I think it was November. It was the topic presented to me for November, I think. I talked about how I am very much up there in my head because that's my way of coping. That's my way of surviving the constant turmoil and the overwhelming feeling of fire and water that is always within me, and my way of tempering that. And I talk about personal alchemy and temperance in that video as well, I think. My way of tempering that to cope, to not so much keep it under control, but to be a better person, or to be a person that I'm meant to be or I can be, is by tempering it with air, with being up there, because otherwise I'll be all over the place. And so not being able to tell you why I feel so much for this deck, I think it's a good thing. At some point I would want to understand on a more intellectual capacity why this worked or why this touched me so much. If you are old enough to have grown up with The Dark Crystal, that movie by Jim Henson of The Muppet Show, this is the kind of feeling that it has for me. It is this combination of innocence and whimsy and cuteness with profound ancient wisdom. It is a juxtaposition between the word little, which suggests adorable, cute, non-threatening, all that, whatever the word little may trigger in most of us. At least for me, that's what the word little suggests. And then the word monster next to it, which is usually large, threatening, dangerous, which trigger that kind of thoughts or emotions or first initial reactions. I'm not saying monsters are always threatening, because I think the idea of monsters is nothing to do with the entities or people or persons we label monsters, but it has a lot more to do with our own mind and our own fears and our own lack of knowledge and our own lack of wisdom, our own lack of understanding. So that's a whole other discussion we'll talk about some other time. But my point is that even in the title it has that the juxtaposition between one and the other. But if you've seen dark crystals, it's the same feeling that I have watching that and looking at this. So that's that. And so in terms of trimming this deck, Spirit of Ants, if you're watching this, Spirit of Ants and I were chatting on the comment section on one of my videos, and I told her that I've contacted the creator on Etsy and asked if originally she had designed this deck to be oval, because first clue is this one here, the label here, and that is not enough. A lot of cards have round labels and they're not round cards. And the other though is the graphic for the spreads stated, outlined in this book, in this handbook. So I thought, and of course when I googled the deck, I found an old Kickstarter page explaining that the deck will be oval, but she then said, the creator said that it didn't quite work out during production, and Spirit of Ants said that she has the Kickstarter edition and they're not oval. So we got curious and thought, why don't we cut it? And so first of all, you need to be aware that the back and the front are not perfectly aligned so that you will not have a uniform back. Second of all, it might be ideal if you do want to trim it to leave a little bit of white around. However, that was my first aim. However, some of them are quite close. Some of the curves are really quite close to the edge, so that effectively you're only allowed that much white all around. When I tried that, it looked pretty messy. Depending on how steady your hand is, it can look good, it can look bad. And I'm a perfectionist, and the closer it gets to the line of the curve, the wobbly they look. So the further away your wobbliness are, the less apparent they are. But as they get closer to the curve here, in contrast to this perfect curve, our hand movement might look a little bit wobblier as it get closer to the curve here. So that's how I ended up with that. Second is when you shuffle, it isn't as stable as when you shuffle a round deck or a square or a rectangular deck. The oval does move around a little bit. It has the added bonus of the deck flipping around as you shuffle it. This is great for people who read reversals, but I don't. So I simply just turn the deck the right side up when they do flip around during shuffling. So whether that's a good thing will depend on whether you read reversals and whether you are an overhand shuffler, and if so, what kind of an overhand shuffler. But I feel that this would not be as great for refill shuffling. So there it is. The Little Monsters Tarot Guidebook. I will read out from the guidebook because I will be working with this deck for my 2017 contemplation year ahead. I will read from the guidebook throughout for each cards that I will pull, and that way you'll get a feel of the voice of the deck. Talk to you soon.